Hey guys, it's Evan Pardue with Underhill Bonsai, and welcome to yet another video about bonsai care, bonsai 101 type video. And yes, it is me. I shaved my mustache and my beard today, and also I'm wearing all blue denim, so we're doing the Canadian jumpsuit as well. So I'm going to be going through and looking at some comments and questions that were on Instagram, our YouTube, our Facebook, emails, and all kinds of different stuff, and just kind of going through and doing a little bit of a Q&A real quick, and then we're going to get into something pretty exciting here. So I had somebody request that I do a bald cypress forest planting, and so I'm also going to be doing that. If you're not interested in hearing the Q&A stuff, we'll put a time signature in there somewhere, I'm sure. So there aren't any names attached to these questions and comments, but I'll just go through and just kind of answer them because we do have some context. Quick question, Instagram, got my tree, looks amazing. Do you have any quick instructions somewhere? So I don't know what species the tree is. I'm assuming that, because we ship a lot of bald cypress, I'll give some general care on bald cypress really quick, is keep it outside, full sun, water every day, twice a day, heat of the summer, 3 times a day, lots of water. And then make sure you're fertilizing it, synthetic or organic fertilizer through the growing season. And then make sure you're checking for things like bugs. So you use like a general insecticide, a systemic insecticide to combat stuff like mealybugs and any other things that might bug it. But as far as other trees go, that kind of goes across the board for a lot of trees that are temperate zone trees, like deciduous trees, or junipers are a little bit different, where junipers you want to water a little bit less often. Tropicals you want to water around the same amount, medium to high water amount, depending on how hot it is. But yeah, there's a lot more to be said about species specific, but I'm going off the fact that we sell a lot of bald cypress, we sell a lot of deciduous elms, and a few tropicals. So I hope that helps out a little bit. Okay. This one's from Instagram as well. It says, hey Evan, I'm a longtime listener of Little Things, and since November, I pay $5 enough Patreon, and you put me in the $1 category. Did I do something wrong? Greetings from Germany. So the Patreon is something that I manage on my own. So if I said your name in the $1 section and you're supposed to be in the $5 patron section, would be the Bonsai Best Buds, I will move your name over to that. So if you send me a quick message on Patreon, this person from Germany, if you watch this video, I'll do that for you. But by the way, if you want to sponsor us on our podcast, I know it's a weird segue, you can go to patreon.com/Little Things for Bonsai People and sponsor me and Carmen Leskoviensky on our podcast show. Facebook comment, kindly show how to wire under the pot looks like. I'm reading this verbatim. I have to learn how to anchor, so how great your demo, the replanting, very convincing that the plant will survive, for it will not move and surely the roots will grow. So basically what this person's asking is they just want to see how the tree is anchored in the pot. So I brought this little Japanese black pine in with me just so there's something nice to look at. It also is a good way to show y'all underneath here, there's tie down holes. And then there's a wire running through there, and you see that zigzag black wire. That's holding the tree down in the pot. And so those wires come up through the bottom and into the top of the soil, and then they go what I call side-by-side tie down. So their wire runs across here, and has 2 points that hold the tree down in the pot like this. So there's 2 points of contact. Those wires are not permanent, so they will eventually be cut away to not affect the nabari or the surface roots of the tree. And yeah, that's just basics, Bonsai 101, how to tie a tree down. And later on in this video, when I do the forest planting, I will show some tie down methods with forest planting techniques. Facebook comment, do you have any dwarf olive plants? I have a few, and they're in my own personal collection, and they're very hard to get in Louisiana because they are predominantly from California, where they have a lot of orchids, orchards of olives, old growth olives, and I just don't have a lot of them here. They're hard to source. So Instagram comment, what soil do you use for pre-bonsai? That's a really good question because we have changed up what we do here recently at the nursery. So we used to put everything in our general bonsai soil mix, our professional mix. I was looking around to see if I had any sitting around, but it's not relevant. But our our professional mix would be that lava, pumice, and then the shell clay product. And then I'll introduce akadama into it for more developed trees. And but our pre-bonsai, we've moved over to stop using the general bonsai soil mix to a nursery standard soil where it's pine bark, sand, and peat. And that tends to work really well for just letting trees that are very young develop lots and lots of fibrous roots and grow lots and lots of really good branches up top. It's kind of a waste to put them straight into bonsai soil until they're more developed like this guy right here. Let's see. Instagram comment. Is this representative of a bald cypress material sold on your website? This is posted from a reel. There was a lot of reels that we did just recently of bald cypresses. I don't know exactly which one you're referring to, but if I can just kind of guess, it's probably going to be one of the ones in the green cord pots. The bulb cord pot, they're about this deep, and then the trunks of the trees are about that big around. Yes, we have lots and lots of those. We just dug out of the field this year. There's about 200 plus that just came out of the field. They are in our greenhouse recovering, and they will grow plenty of roots on them. And then we will have them for sale once they're nice and healthy in the fall. We'll be able to ship them. But yeah, those generally range from 150 to 200 bucks right now. We have much bigger trees coming out of the field. So if you're interested in a bigger tree, just shoot me a question or a email to evan@underhillbonsai.com. And you can also go to underhillbonsaistore.com and see what we have available. I think we're sold out of bald cypress that we can ship right now, unfortunately, in that stock size. Instagram message. So this looks like multiple parts. Hi, I'm hoping you can help. I have a Jabokota Kaba that is struggling. It's alive and pretty much leafless. It's indoors now, and I water it about once a week. I understand that they like acidic soil, and I put it in Kanuma along with a small but of the organic it was previously. Okay, so a little bit of organic soil left in there still. I had it outside last summer and struggled out there. I'm in southern Arizona and it's hot. I tried moving it inside about October last year and it stopped popping new buds. They opened, then died. It got beautiful ramification. I want it to survive. Please help. You think it's a soil issue? It's not a soil issue. If you're keeping your tree indoors, and Jabokota Kaba is a tropical plant, that actually really loves being outside in a very humid area. They are native to, I think they come from Nepal. I know they come from a lot of other tropical ranges, but I can't remember exactly where they're originated from. But they are considered a tender tropical plant. So anything cold under 50 degrees will completely just mess them up. So they'll lose their leaves, they'll get sad, they'll have a lot of dieback. So you want to keep that tree as hot and warm and humid as possible. So keeping it in your house and watering it once a week is not going to help that tree. Best thing you can do is put it straight outside, put it in full sun, water it, fertilize it, and just make sure that when you water it, that the water is going all the way through the pot and running out the bottom. If it's not percolating, it's sitting stuck, then it's very root bound. You may need to slip pot into a larger pot. Don't change out the soil unless your tree is strong. If your tree is struggling, it's not a root issue because there's probably root rot on top of that. So just getting the percolation in the pot in the soil going will probably help your tree. I hope it survives. Sorry to hear that it's doing poorly, and you might lose a lot of your ramification. All right, so here's another comment from Instagram. It's hard to find baskets. I think they're talking about grow baskets. We have them in H-Marts in Chicagoland and didn't find any. On a trip there in June to look at houses, I found some and bought all of them. Pictures are attached that they wanted me to see. They're referring to some pond baskets that they bought. So just really quick about pond baskets. This is just kind of like a comment. It's not really like a question. They were just kind of inquiring about pond baskets. I think we had some for sale a while back at the nursery. So the thought is that pond baskets will help the root system become tight in a way that it will naturally air prune fine roots that would reach the sides of the container. So let's say this was in a pond basket. I got one over here. It's a little tiny, but. So this is a pond basket. And it literally has, it's like a colander pot as well, is what they usually call them in Japan. But basically you put your tree in here, you put organic soil, and you put your bonsai soil in the middle. And what happens is any of the roots that reach the exterior of this and hit the air will be air pruned off. They will die back because they can't survive on the very aerobic, high oxygen areas around this pot. But usually you put like a bog plant, like a pitcher plant or something else that's water loving, and you put it in your pond so that it's just kind of contained in here. But they say that this helps get tighter, denser root systems. For me, I don't really use these. I just use like a mortar tub or a basic like nursery can, like a plastic pot, and just punch a few holes in the side of that. But it's way too hot here for me to use these types of things. But Japanese black pines, they might help a little bit, but you need a lot of organics so that you don't have running roots all over. Instead, you get fine fibrous roots that will make a tight ball. And then people will take bigger pond baskets and put this inside of a bigger pond basket inside of, it's kind of like a nesting doll effect to encourage the roots to run down further and further, but you maintain the root ball in the smaller baskets. So when you're ready to repot, you don't have to cut off so much of the core of the tree. So I think that's where they were going with that, but I'll just give y'all a little demonstration or a little explanation of how pond baskets work. And so this customer is asking, I saw Baldies are for sale. Are they starting to flute? So flute, that's a word, that's a slang that we use here in Louisiana bonsai culture, as refers to whenever the roots kind of do that kick out, where they kind of have that vascular system that pulls the roots outwards and gives you that buttress effect that you see on older cypresses. We have trees in our field. I took a few photos for a customer and sent emails over. And we have them where they're getting to like that 8-inch to 10-inch size where they are beginning to flute. So yes, we have them available. We just haven't dug any up this season yet, but we will be digging some up because we're getting more questions about them. So just look on our website in the future for those. Yep, this one's actually, I can actually answer this one. Which soil is best for jade bonsai? So we're talking about Portulacaria afra, which is dwarf jade. Let me grab one real quick. All right. So this is a Portulacaria afra or dwarf jade, money tree or whatever you might call them. And in South Africa, where they come from, they're actually called bacon bush or elephant food. So they got a lot of common names, and that's going to be something that you see a lot with different species used for bonsai. So Portulacaria afra, I use a general soil mix, so lava, pumice, and akadama sometimes, low levels of akadama, because they don't want to keep them so wet that they get root rot, because they are succulent-like. They're not a desert plant, they're not a cactus. So I put them in a high-draining soil that the water will drain through readily and very quickly. But I will water them a lot more than you think, because they actually do love water. They just don't like what we call in the biz wet feet. So that means whenever the soil gets built up and it gets so root bound at the bottom that the water can't come through the bottom of the pot very easy, and then you get puddling in the bottom of the pot, and it's sitting in water, and then those roots will rot. I've actually pulled old stock like this and went to go repot it, and you can smell the root rot. It smells kind of weird. It's got like a punky, pungent like smell to it. It's kind of hard to explain, but I smell that a lot on these guys. And another one that has a very strong smell is like a wisteria, because those get root bound really easy as well. So it's just, just something to look out for. But these guys are really easygoing, and it's part of their habit. They break off and become new trees. And something to be said really quick, there's a Little Things for Bonsai People podcast episode where I talked to Gilbert Cantu. He runs an Instagram page called Little Jade Bonsai. So if you want to go check him out, he's got a lot of dwarf jade information there. He's a great source of knowledge for the species. But when you take the cutting like this, you actually want to go straight into a organic soil, like the peat moss and pine bark mixture, and you want to water it immediately and put it immediately outside. See, a lot of people will take these cuttings and they'll lay them on their bench and let them dry out. That actually really, really sets the cutting back. If you put it straight into the soil and water it right away, then it'll actually just start shooting roots in there like in the next week, and you'll actually get some really good growth. So water your Portulacaria every day, full blasting hot sun. They're tropical. Okay, I love jades. They're easy. Are these what you have on sale during the holidays? Which price point are these trees? This comment refers to a video posted about bald cypress starting to come out of the grow field. So The bald cypresses that we just did recently, the ones where we knocked them down from like 150 to like 100 and 125 depending on their size, that was a sales price opportunity just to move those trees because they became very root bound and they're just ready to be worked. They were ready to be pruned on their roots. They would be ready to go into their first container, like a training pot situation. So every time that we bulk up on the amount of trees that we have available for purchase, holiday sales might come along like that. You see, I like to do the quotations like Dr. Evil all the time. That's just a habit. Do you sell collected cypress? What price is the range normally on those? Last question from Facebook. I do sell collected bald cypress, Taxodium distichum. So the price on those are going to be varied. Like the variance on that is, I mean, it's all over the place. Depends on collection location, depends on how big the tree is, it depends on special features, because when we collect bald cypress, we have so many here at the nursery that I have good pickings on good bases, good roots, on good trunks. So when I go out to the swamps to collect here in South Louisiana, I'm very selective about serious flare and taper, and sometimes there's bald cypress knees growing off the bases or on the root systems, or there's a hollow in the tree or some interesting twisting or trunk movement. And that will really dictate how much that tree will cost potentially, because I have to include the labor of going to get the tree, going to collect the tree, my knowledge collecting and finding the trees, and then of course then that goes into the man hours of labor, like potting the tree up. I'm gonna run out of fingers here. Potting the tree up, and also the maintenance, like letting it grow out, when to carve it, when to cut the branches back when they get too long. So I think my minimum on collected bald cypress, if we've got like a 6-7 inch trunk, that's normally what I go for, because that makes a great tree with good flare. And then they come up pretty quickly into like I call it a Hershey kiss shape. Those trees will range from $600 to $800 fresh out of the ground with new buds all over them, branched out. But once we get to those huge sizes, then we're talking about big, difficult trees to move, and we got to put them on a pallet and freight them and stuff. And those trees probably max out around 1,000 to 1,800. I don't like charging too much for collected cypress because there's so many of them. But you have to keep in mind about all of the sweat and tears and blood that go into collecting those trees out of the swamps. Like literally, you can actually go over to the Boot Bonsai on Instagram, and you can see me and Nate Murray. There's some videos of us collecting cypresses recently and how nasty that can get. We had a guy, we went out there, was collecting with a friend of mine named Justin. He's on one of our videos from a while ago, like last year. And he went to step in the swamp, and the first thing he did, he stepped into a service ditch area that he couldn't see. And he went all the way up to his waistline in water. And he had thigh-high boots, and his boot filled with water. So immediately we go in there, and it's a dirty job. So we had to pull him out, and then we proceeded to collect trees for like the rest of the day. So it took all day. We pulled, I think, 3 trees that day, and we were out there for like 7 hours. So think about that whenever you see a collected tree and you're like, man, that price seems high. We work really hard for those trees. So that's all the comments that we have from Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you guys have any more questions or care guide questions, just keep commenting on those posts. I will try my best to kind of sort through the ones that make sense to answer on these videos for you guys. And so I'm going to go outside, and we're going to prep a bald cypress planting, and we're going to kind of go into what that entails. So, okay, so if you skipped the questions and comments that I answered earlier in this video, welcome to the video. So Evan with Underhill Bonsai, like I stated before, and yes, this is me. I just shaved my beard and mustache off. So today I'm going to do a bald cypress forest planting, and I wanted to do something a little bit more fun. Instead of just sticking a bunch of small trees into this pot, I'm going to do something experimental, and I've been doing this with Guy Guidry's been coming over to the nursery quite a bit, and he's been cutting trees in half. And so I'm going to cut this tree in half because I've only got one good tree that I want to make this forest planting with, and so I need a number 1 and I need a number 2. So we're going to talk about some forest planting dynamics and how to set up a forest planting as I go through this. And also we're going to do something seems a little crazy, but actually it will work because bald cypresses are resilient enough to kind of withstand this kind of work. So what I mean by like a number 1 and number 2 is typically When you have a forest planting, you always want your number one tree to be the biggest and tallest tree in the entire planting. So, and also I need the trees to be small enough to fit within the confines of this pot. So I chose this pot because it's shallow, it's wider, and if I cut this tree in half and then made one smaller and left one a little bit bigger, I've got a tree that's about, it's hard to see on camera, that's about a 3-inch round, but if I cut it in half, then I'll get two, and I'll get one about this size and one about this size. And then I've got some smaller trees, and I'll show y'all a few of the other ones that I pulled earlier, but I got some smaller trees that will be like my tiny guys, like my little trees that will be complementary. And then, yeah, I went crazy on this one. I went out to our grow field and I pulled some medium size. So this guy right here, he might be a little bit on the bigger side. So I might end up cutting him into this smaller trunk that I left on the side here, and then kind of carve him down a little bit and make like a hollow. Keep in mind, these just came out of our grow field, so that's why they have these roots are kind of short and kind of messy looking. And bald cypresses are very resilient when they're young like this, that if I get this down in here and I put really good soil and I strap them down and I get a lot of good moisture retention in here, these will root and they will make really good forest planting trees. Now, of course, I can't keep them this tall either. This little guy, he has some really cool branches up top, but I only need him to be about this tall. So I will cut this tree down, I'll cut this tree down, and then these small guys will be cut down accordingly as well. So let me go put these back in the water real quick. So that was 2 trees, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I cut him in half, that's 7. So there's a couple of rules about forest plantings I will cover really quick before I start getting to the action here. 1, there should always be a prime number of trees in your forest planting, and that's because prime numbers are non-divisible. They're the strongest numbers in the bonsai aesthetic and the bonsai kind of thought process. There's also different sized trunks, like, so y'all saw I have a bunch of trees there. This guy is tiny, I don't know how to describe it. It's a tiny bit bigger than this. Tiny bit bigger is, that's contradictory sounding, but this one is slightly bigger than this one, and this one's a little close. So, but we want all of our trunks to be different sizes, and we also want different distances between all the trunks. So the challenge here is going to be get all these trunks different sizes, get them all different heights, get them all different distances, and make sure that we maintain a prime number of trunks. And so the idea behind that is that it'll make it feel more natural, it'll make it feel a little bit more like nature influenced instead of a static feeling kind of forest planting that was created by man, which it's going to be created by me. But in the Japanese thought process of creating forest plantings, if you have all these rules in place, you should be able to trick the viewer into thinking that you found these trees and they were kind of all together in this little forest planting. I just peeled it out of the ground and put it in this pot. So that's what we're going to try to achieve today. Now I'm sure I can do it because these are like 1-year-old whips or seedlings. They're very strong, very flexible. And then this tree was dug out of our grow field a year ago, and it has plenty of roots. Whoa. I almost dropped that tree on the previous video. The one that I was like being so like, I was making it so important, and then at the end of the repot, I almost dropped the tree on the ground. So I'm gonna try to do that every video, I guess. But yeah, there's plenty of roots on this as well. So let's get to the fun part of this then. So I'm gonna take this tree out of the pot and I'm going to cut it down the middle. So there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing this, is because it's a good tree. It's not a very interesting tree though. So I on purpose chose a tree that didn't have a lot of like interest to it to begin with. So just so that I can show you guys, if you have what we call a telephone pole, that's what I would kind of call this appearance of this tree. I'm sure when I dig down in here that there's gonna be some good quality roots, but again, they're not the best roots in the world. In fact, there's a root right here. It points straight outwards. It has no taper, no interest, and actually comes up out of the soil, which is not great. If y'all remember from my previous video, which if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend going back and looking at the bald cypress video where I talked about the progression of bald cypresses from field to like a couple of years to several years to one that was up to 30 years. I would suggest going and watching that too. But yeah, as far as this goes, this is not very attractive roots on this tree, to be honest. So let me get some tools and cut it out of the pot, and we'll start kind of working this down and see what we got. All right, let's go in. Liberate this tree from the pot. It's got roots growing all on the bottom here, so I'm actually gonna cut some of them off so that they kind of don't hold me up from getting them out of the container. This is a bus pan. You can get it from like a restaurant supply store. So we went to like a place down in the Covington, Louisiana area and got a bunch of these. They don't last forever though. So these are good temporary containers. There are like holes busted in them and stuff. So don't think that this will be the best thing you can use to like put your collected cypresses in. I've seen other people use like dresser drawers, like an old dresser that was sitting in their yard. Just anything will work. So we'll put that over there. Old wire. We'll make sure always, if we use wire to tie down our trees, we always remove it so that when we go to put the tree back in the pot, that we don't have just old pieces of aluminum wire hanging out in there. So let's see what we got. And just as I suspected, this root that's high up right here, there are better roots down below. So I can kind of see where this tree has been cut in the past. All right, let me grab some root pruners. So just as suspected, this root right here is no good. It's really high up. So I'm gonna remove that just so it's out of the equation. And there's actually a chop point right here, you can see it. There's a root down there though, coming out of the bottom of this where it was cut originally. You can kind of see it there. There's a root growing above it. And it's growing into what I call a tube root. Looks like a tube. So I usually remove those. And I know I said I'm gonna cut this tree in half, and I'm over here being selective with the roots and stuff. And you know, it doesn't matter what crazy project we get into. There are things that we still have to do that, you know, I would consider important to maintaining a tree and getting good roots or good quality nabari on the trunk and branches and everything else in the root system. So I still go through and I still do all the proper maintenances and cutbacks. So this root, reason why I'm removing it is because underneath here, it has a space under there. It's just not very attractive for the tree's roots in the future there. So I'm gonna remove that as well. And really what I'm trying to get to here is a very nice shallow root system. So it looks like I'm just steadily just going down and down and down. And I am. I'm reducing it down. Now look how thin that root system is. It's still got roots on it. Look at all those roots. So it's not like I'm cutting it to nothing. It's just for bonsai, I know that I need the most shallow root system I can possibly get. And then when I get a big root like that, I usually cut them off at an angle, like this. And I will leave that side like this. So whenever the roots develop, see there's a root right here, that will actually make this look like it's two roots. So I know it sounds kind of weird right now because one, what I'm about to do to this tree, and two, it's hard to visualize that before the healing process has begun. So now that I got the tree worked down to a nice shallow root system that's very, very workable, I'm gonna go through and decide where this victim of a tree is gonna be cut. So I know that, let me cut this off. There we go. I know that the roots are not very interesting here. In fact, I don't really like this bulge. And the tree's got some really strong pieces up here. Now I get to choose one of these two. Oh, well, there's 3 of them that are very strong. I'm gonna choose 2 of them, and I'm actually gonna cut the tree in half to go into one of these 2 strong pieces and then carve it with carving tools to make it taper. So that's why I'm cutting it in half, because we're doing like a storm damaged forest planting that shows 2 old trees and then the younger trees growing amongst them. And the hollow effect of it, they will heal and they will roll a cambium over that. And then I can play around as much as I want and do flat top or just do any other kind of style that I choose. So yeah, I think right here is gonna be where I'm gonna cut it. So I'm gonna come straight down the line. I'm gonna cut off any branches that will be in the way. I know that's not gonna stay around. And I'm also gonna cut off this here, because I'm not gonna keep that. That's gonna come off in the part where I cut it down the middle. All right, so everything's clear there. And then, pop, 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 pop. And it's gonna go down between here. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this tree in half. So I'm gonna get you to kind of hold it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna start from here.
Oh, you couldn't like that, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see. Yeah, it might be. So what we might do is like lay it on its side so that you can kind of stabilize it easier. Let's see. Yeah, that's difficult. Let's see. I'm left-handed, so flip it over the other way.
This way?
Yeah, let's see if that works. All right, I think we'll stand it up and then we'll try to like pull the tops apart and see if that will start helping it come down the middle. Clear?
Yeah. Cut it all the way in half.
Yep.
What you do?
Yep. I'm making a forest planting, so I'm going to use one as a smaller tree and one as the second tree.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Thanks for helping out.
All right.
All right, so that's what we got here. We got 2 cypress trees now, like this. Isn't that interesting? Now, it might look a little silly to some people, but look at all the roots that we got on either side of these trees. I say trees because, yeah, we had a tree at one point, and we cut it in half. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick one of these to be the bigger tree and one to be the smaller tree. And let's kind of see what that looks like. I'm going to choose him to be the bigger tree because the base is wider on this one. See, I got a little bit more surface root where this one's a little skinnier. It's got some weirder cuts on it that I did. And so what that means is I'm gonna have to taper the trees. So tapering means that we're gonna have a thicker base here. I like how it's standing up on its own. That's kind of silly. But we're gonna have a thicker base, and then I'm gonna use a carving tool, like a wood carving tool. I'm actually going to carve this tree in and make it get skinnier as it goes up into the top here. And that's going to solve a lot of our issues with like the telephone trunk, telephone pole base that we had. Now this tree did have some taper in it naturally, right here where the roots flare out. But here it gets a little more straight, and I'm gonna carve into this and make it skinnier and make it reduce down and make it more attractive. Now the second tree it can't be the same height as this tree. So I'm gonna cut this guy down into one of these right here and cut that top part off and actually make it appear to be smaller. And then I'm gonna carve it into that as well. And luckily, these trees have some smaller branches down here. So I can actually use some of these branches to do some fun things like wire them and move them around as well. Okay. Let's do this guy first. Okay, so I know that that's gonna have to go. And then let's go ahead and knock that off just so it's a little easier to work. Okay, so there was questions in another video about what tools I use. So I'll just tell you guys what I use as I go then. I should have said some of the tools I had earlier, but this is a branch cutter. And so it's got a convex shape to it, so that when you make a cut, it makes a concave cut into the tree. And branch cutter specifically, and not a knob cutter, which is a different tool I might use later on, because when you cut a branch, usually branches come in like, they have like 3 branches coming out like this. I'm not gonna cut my finger off. And you go in and you cut that middle part, and that concave will make that that shape between those branches more natural looking, and they'll heal better. So that's what this is right here. I'm carving this tree, so what I want you to do is kind of hold it like here, and just kind of press down while I carve. Full of aphids. Watch your hands. All right, now turn it all the way over. All right, now just kind of, yeah, keep your hands there. All right, now flip the tree all the way around and hold it the other way, so that I can get to this inside right here. Yeah, and don't push too hard because you might break it. So I'm just gonna kind of scoot your hands up. There you go. Oh yeah, that's cool. All right, now let's get the other guy on the ground behind you. So kind of hold him right there for a moment. I'm gonna cut
straight up?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut the top off of him right here. So I don't need any of that. Can you still see?
Yeah.
Move to the side a little bit, Gavin.
That's so long.
I know. Not really using this branch cutter to the best what I can use it for, but I'm just trying to get some of this wood off real quick. In fact, let me grab a saw. Yeah, I know. I'll get an orthene dip on it. Okay, let me just do this real quick. All right, lay it this way towards me. Yep. Okay. And then I'm gonna carve it again, just like I did a second ago. And this guy, I'm gonna carve him a lot skinnier than the other one, so we're gonna be ripping this guy down like a board in a wood shop. Okay, so keep that actually. All right, so scoot him out as far as you can, and make sure you turn your body that way so they can see. Turn it all the way around. Oh wait, other way, all the way around. Yep, there you go. And then stand to the side again. And bring him out pretty far so that I can get to the sides. There you go. Ready? Make sure you don't break the branch on the top. Turn it all the way around like it was where the white side's up again. Turn all the way, keep going, keep going. Yeah, there you go. And I'm gonna make it into a toothpick now. All right, so just hold on to it.
Make sure. Okay.
Yep, you ready?
All right.
You see him? Yep. All right. That was cool. Thank you.
That was it?
Yep. Thanks, Gavin. All right. The reason why I stopped here with this part, because when I got to the top part here, I just didn't want to blow that top branch off of there with the carving tool. So I'm just going to cut it with the branch cutter now. Now, I'm laughing because of how silly this is. Now we got a number 1 and a number 2. Look at that. This one's bigger and this one's taller than the other one. And then I'll cut the roots back and they'll actually fit in that pot pretty nicely together. And so I can even like turn him sideways to kind of show. And what we've been doing is we've been kind of cutting them like this and putting them together like that. That actually might be kind of cool too. But I have to make sure that whenever I set up my forest planting orientation, that nothing is like out of whack or weird. So let me take off my ski goggles and kind of clean these up. They're, you know, speaking of cleanup, it's just, if you guys see me do carving videos, this is usually how it goes. All right. Remove some of these dangerous objects from my work area real quick. And I almost forgot. So the tool that y'all just saw me using, this is a King Author chainsaw wheel. So you can go to kingauthorstools.com. I haven't bought tools from them in a long time, so I'm not sure if they sell these anymore. But you might be able to like look on some online forums and see if there's anything similar. So yeah, this right here, that's the King Author chainsaw wheel. Like I said in previous videos where I've carved, very, very dangerous tool. Always have a guard on, always have the handle on, and then this is a Boss angle grinder. I like Makita. I'm a Makita guy myself, but we just have a Boss angle grinder. It was just the one I had. I do have all my other tools tend to be Makita. If you're Makita, Milwaukee, DeWalt's, they all do the same thing. As long as they're good quality and the tool won't fall apart in your hands while you're using a really dangerous blade. So lots of fun, does the job. Like I did this pretty quickly. So just in case y'all wanted some tool guidance there. So even though I cut these trees in half and then carved them and reduced them, I still have a good number of roots. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the root prepping process here to get them in the container. So I'm gonna cut back roots that were just too long, and I'm gonna get these root balls nice and compact. So if you noticed before, when I had this bald cypress, when it was one tree, it was growing in, I keep just laughing to myself because of how ridiculous this is. And I said that I didn't like this root, and I cut through this other root instead. Whatever. It's not that bad. At least it's got roots underneath it. That was grown in pine bark and peat moss, the organic materials that I was talking about earlier. And so in turn, they gave us a lot of fibrous roots. And I could pull off this really ridiculous stunt here by cutting the tree in half, because I've got plenty of roots around the entire tree to work with here. And they were all on the bottom of the pot because that's where all the moisture gathered, and that's where the tree was the happiest, and it was able to produce really good roots down there. So because of how I cut this, I cut it in half, I tapered it up so we got this nice fat base to skinny top, and I even kind of carved this out a little bit to give it a little bit of a convex, because one day what's going to happen is as this grows, it's going to roll a cambium along the side of this, and the cambium's going to creep over. And up here, the loud trucks in the highway here. The cambium might even creep over and heal this all the way, and it'll look like one tree again, like a whole tree. So that's an excellent little start there. So let's see what we have for the pot. Oh, look at that, it just goes straight in the pot now, no issues. So what I could probably do to play around with this is make my number 1 tree kind of off a little bit to the side, and then put the other tree here, and then I'll have those smaller trees in here with these guys. Maybe even have like a tree in between them. And I was gonna go with the 7 tree forest, but I might go with the 5 because it's still a good number of trees. I don't want to go too many trees. I want to overshoot it and fill the pot with too many plants, because then I get kind of overwhelmed and I start making rash decisions. I want to be a little bit more realistic with these trees. So I'm going to go ahead and use the tie down wires to kind of hold them in place, just for now, so I can start doing some experimenting. But instead of just doing side-by-side wiring, like I showed on that pine tree earlier in the video, I have a wire that goes from, there's 4 drainage holes, so actually let me just pick it up. There's 4 drainage holes on the bottom. You can see it goes one to there, to there. They kind of make like a box shape on the bottom. Yeah. And so those wires are going to help me hold down all the other little trees that go on this planting. So let's see. You know what? That's actually kind of interesting if we had like the 2 split trees and then we had these little guys hanging out in there. That would be kind of cool. Let me grab the other tree. And it's funny because the one that I cut in half is looking a little better off than this guy right now. I might use this one just because he's got a bigger trunk than the other guys. This one, actually, if he would live, now he's a little too similar in size of this tree. And that was the thing I was scared of here. That's why I had extra trees pulled. He's too similar and he's going to compete. So I don't want competition with trees in this planting. I want there to be clearly a number 1, a number 2, and then the other trees that dwell amongst these guys. So I'm going to use this one and then 2 of these smaller trees to build my forest. So we're going to put him back, and we're going to put him in a pot, and then don't worry, he'll be okay. It's just, there's enough roots on there to survive. And throwing those trees back in the water, it's like throwing a fish back in a water barrel. It's like, oh, he'll survive. So it's kind of funny to me. I know I'm not going to need this tree that tall, so we're going to go there first. And remember that I have to have all these trees be shorter than the main trees. That's why I picked it that way. Here's something else to keep in mind, is that we need those different distances between everything. So what I usually do in a forest planting is I will choose to put them in clusters. Since we're going with 5 trees, so we'll have 2 trees together and then 3 trees together, and we'll have 2 mini forests together in the bigger forest. So I'll put, like, let's say this is the bigger guy, so I'm gonna put a small tree here, I'll put this smaller tree slightly in front of it, and then I'll put 1 small tree over here to make like 3 and then 2. And then I'll have the distance between these trees be a little greater so that there's a little bit more interest there. So let me see what that looks like. It's already working out. That's also part of the fun of creating a forest planting too, is that it's so easy just to put these guys together, and they will grow. Since they're like, you know, they're not very big, and they've got so many opportunities. They're so young. This tree's like a year old. So I'm gonna cut him right there. So he's gonna go, I think right here is kind of cool. So I like putting the second, not the second. So you got tree number 1, number 2, and then 3. So we're cascading down to smaller sizes. I always like to put this tree kind of slightly in front of the largest tree because it shows the scale. It makes this tree look bigger in a way. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's one way that it works for me. So I'm gonna put this here for now and use my wire to kind of play around. Bamboo's making noise behind you. Okay. So put that there. And I usually like to lean the trunks out away from each other in a forest planting like this because these trunks are very straight. So we need some kind of dynamic where instead of just going like straight up, we have a little bit as they come towards the edges. The younger trees are going to want to come out. So let's go ahead and get these guys out of the pots.
How we doing?
So, little guy, or little lady, whatever you want to call him. It feels weird to call a tree a little lady to me, so that's why I say a little guy. But little tree, we'll put him here, and he has to be shorter than this one. So, and this one, we're gonna go here. So there's the different trunk heights that we need. So, oh, and then this one. And I'm not trying to make this complicated. I'm just making quick decisions to keep it more natural. Because if I'm over here with a tape measure and just shooting measurements all over the place, and I'm like, yeah, it gets a little too crazy and too overcomplicated. Keep it simple, stupid is kind of how I live my life. So just let my overly complicating anxiety thoughts not overtake my process here, and just kind of go with the flow. And you can see all these little guys are beautiful too. They got lots of little roots on them. Man, look at that thing. It's just, the roots are all kinds of places. And so for these little trees, I will actually just leave all their roots intact because this will give them more acceleration in setting into this this pot. And you see these guys were grown in bonsai soil. These are little starters that we have around the nursery. I used one of these in an earlier video where I did carving and movement, and I just put movement into one of these, and we'll kind of recap on that guy later, what he looks like as he grows. That'll be a little follow-up on that later. But yeah, we'll just kind of clean the roots off a little bit, see what's going on, and then, you know what, I'm going to cut this a little bit. I say that, but I don't want a box shape underneath when I'm trying to line this up. It makes it harder to puzzle it in there. All right, so there, maybe, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not going to cut any roots. Cuts roots anyway. Yeah, it was fun. Just like put one peeping through the middle of them. Kind of fun. We'll see how that looks in a second here. Okay, so I think I'm just playing around, but I think I kind of landed on what I want a little bit quicker. So number one, he doesn't have to be in the center. In fact, I like him to be like where the center of if this was one tree, I like to move it to the side, closer to the foot on the side here. I like where this is, and I was playing around with the thought of putting a tree in between them. So let me make sure that there's a little bit of a curve in this tree. I don't want it to intersect this tree. So what I mean by that is, if you can see this tree, he's got a curve that kind of goes a little bit this way, and so I don't want him to grow and then these two trees eventually intersect in their lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually angle him out a little bit, but still keep him in between, and I don't want him to interfere with that tree too. So when I go to put my soil in here, I'm going to make sure that he stands straight but grows slightly away, and then we'll go from there. Let me see. Just need a little bit of experimentation. That's really cool. So let's kind of take like a piece of trunk here, our victim, the top of it. So using this to kind of measure, it's time for a haircut, to measure the distance here. So this tree is this far away from this guy. This one's this far away from number 2. So this guy and this guy are very similar in distance. So I'm going to move him slightly so it's a little bit more. This has got a good distance. It's very similar to that one, so I'll move it a little closer. I know that seems so minute. And then because the proximity of this tree and this tree are close, what I'll do sometimes is I'll move trees like really close to each other, kind of like this. In fact, I'll take the roots of this tree and wrap it around this one so that they're literally on top of each other. And another thing that's really important too is that when you look at this forest planting, when we're done putting the soil in there and strapping everything down, every tree from the front of the pot has to be visible. You can't have any trees hidden behind other trees. They have to all be within the viewer's view. So they're just where everybody can see them. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and get some soil and get some soil underneath the trees. I'm gonna lift them slightly, and then, oh, you know what's funny? I've been doing this the whole time with no mic. Funny thing, we'll just leave this in, I guess, but I took this this shirt off, or jacket, or whatever, button down, or button up, whatever you want to call it, and it has the mic on it, and I threw it right there, and luckily, all the audio, because I talk loud enough, was caught on the recording, so I had to put my shirt back on to get the mic next to me, but we didn't lose anything, so we're good. Like I said, we're gonna get some soil and get it underneath the trees and kind of elevate them a little bit, but I want to keep most of the roots down underneath the soil line in this pot because it's so shallow, and I want the roots to have an opportunity to develop well. So I'm gonna get some soil real quick and I'll be right back. All right, so this is our soil. In case you guys don't know, you can go over to underhillbonsaistore.com and purchase it online and have it shipped anywhere in the United States. We sell it in 1 gallon and 5 gallon portions, and we can do bulk as well. It's just keep in mind we have to do freight shipments or whatever you want to say. But yeah, you may remember the Bush Baked Beans commercials. Roll that beautiful soil footage. So I'm gonna start letting this roll off into here and go in there and kind of fill in the roots. And I'm not going to tie anything down completely just yet. I want to make sure that I can get all the soil in there around these trees. And I'm going to lift them slightly and let the soil fall under them a little bit. Chopstick. Bamboo chopstick helps me get the soil underneath the trees and inside the root system, and see how everything kind of levels out. So much more interesting that way. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start tying things down here. So that works there. And so the reason why I did the 4-point tie is that I can go there, and then I can go, whoops, I can go across here and catch these two guys. So I'll go in the middle of them. Well, we'll actually go over the part right here and start tying them down. So I'm catching all the trees in the forest planting by doing this. There's wire across this guy, there's wire across here, 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 and here. Gin pliers, also just like everyday tool. I use these to tighten the wire on the trees so they stay in place. It would help if I went the right direction. There we go. So yeah, I use these to lift, twist, until I get down to the bottom and things start shoring up, is like what I like to say. Now, what did I do right here? Oh, there it is. And you might be saying, but wait, Evan, your trees are starting to shift around in the pot, and all those nice angles that you were talking about keeping, oop, that guy didn't even get wire over him. All the nice angles you said you were gonna keep on your trees are kind of going away. Well, don't worry, I do have a solution for that as well. Not only do I know how to cut trees in half, but I know how to keep trees from wiggling around and losing their placement in a forest planting as well. So I'm gonna put this in here. There we go. He's got so many roots on him. That's a great thing that he's got roots. This little tree actually came out of the grow field. Before we started recording this morning, I was like, I'm gonna do a forest planting, and I was missing a tree that I needed for this, and I just ran out to the field. It's over here on the side of the nursery, and I just plucked him out of the field with a saw. So it's it's nice when you have a bonsai nursery that has all the supplies you need for this kind of stuff. So if you guys are interested in doing your own, just give me a ring or an email and we'll talk about getting supplies for making your own forest plantings. We got plenty of them. All right. Nice and tight wire there. Everything's looking good. Now, I told y'all I had a technique to get angles set in forest plantings. Check this out. I learned this technique from the wonderful Miss Dawn Ketting. She does a lot of forest plantings as well, and we're gonna have her at, say, Bonsai 2025, so you can come work with her if you'd like. You get some wire. So the concept here is that we use a slightly thicker wire, and I'm gonna cut it about that long. And I told y'all that I wanted this tree to peek through the middle. You can't see him right now, but watch this. We're gonna go in and we're gonna wrap this wire. Actually, I'm gonna wrap this wire around this guy because he doesn't have any branches that I want to wire out just yet on him. And I'm gonna give it 2 turns. Then I'm gonna go over to him and I'm going to put him where I want him. Can you see that? Yeah, I'm gonna put him right here and wrap wire around him. And then I'm gonna use the wire to keep him in position. Remember, I don't want it to intersect either of the main trees, but I want him to be in the middle of the trees. They're all trees. All right, and then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do the same thing to these little guys right here to help position them and keep their distance correct. So two loops, and I want them to be a little closer to each other, and boom. And then because the wire is so flexible, I can actually play around with this. So like I could be like, oh, I like that right there, or there. It's like wiring the branches on the trees. So I can just play around with it. Now I don't want this to touch the cambium. It will roll right there and I'll just take it off in the future, but that looks good for now. So you get some more soil and I'm gonna pack these roots down in here. In fact, let me cut these roots off. Cut these stringy roots that are just gonna poke up through the top of the soil anyway. He's got some cowboy legs, so he's got like a little gap right there standing up. That's fine, that'll develop and become nicer. I'll leave that on there, split root. Okay, let's get some more soil. All right, so I'm going in and putting soil in here. Now keep in mind, I did go straight into a bonsai container and I went ahead and just cut my trees down. They're young. I've done this before, so we'll walk over to the bonsai display area and I'll have some like B-roll footage of just go through the trees that have been put into forest plantings in the past. And so these little guys will actually bud out and give me little branches like this, and I'll just make a new top on them. And then I'll keep them at their appropriate heights. So it's awesome with bald cypresses to be able to start so fresh with them because I can literally choose what I want them to do in the future. Yeah, can't be taller than this one. And I'm cutting off lower branches and branches that are parallel over each other and big branches. And then I'm gonna cut these branches back. I'm not getting too crazy here. And then I'm gonna wire them. Because why not? Put some wire on them real quick. Because this tree is so resilient. The Taxodium distichum is so resilient that I can take it out of the field, I can cut it in half, I can do all kinds of interesting stuff. And this will bud out in, well, it is spring right now. repotting season is coming to an end pretty quickly here. So this is it. This is my last chance to do these kind of things. So I'm actually outside the repotting window for repots. But I mean, I'm at a bonsai nursery and I can do things like this and have fun, and I can recover things. So if you ever want to pursue a project like this, I would highly suggest that you do it whenever the last freeze is happening in your winter, and the temperatures are going to not be below freezing for several nights. And then you'll start to see the buds on trees swell. Like I've said in the past, in like previous podcast recordings, I'll talk to people about what I look for signals. In my area, repotting season's over whenever the Acer rubrums, the red maples, start budding and making flowers. And that is a signal of spring for me here. And that tells me, all right, Evan, it's time to stop repotting everything and instead to start getting everything ready for the springtime and start doing some initial styling on trees, and do wire and cutbacks on deciduous trees. So that's usually how I use that. I try to keep all my branches off the same planes. Okay. Let's clean it up. All right, so let's go inside, and I'm gonna put some moss on here and wrap us up, and then we're done for the day. All right, so we're back in the clean-ish studio space here. I got my sphagnum moss, and I'm ready to moss the top of my forest planting that I just created. So let's talk about some other things with this. So I got all the spacing, all the distances, all the heights are all different. You can see on this white background now, you can really see a clear shot of what we were trying to achieve here. And we'll give it a spin around real quick so y'all can see. Pretty cool, I like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing that I usually do with a lot of my repots. I put a lot of moss on here. This will kind of help keep that top area hydrated. These trees were ripped into, let's just say the least. So they need a lot of recovery time. If it gets below freezing, I'm definitely gonna put this in the greenhouse. That's another thing, aftercare thought there. Got some really cool roots. I got a root here, got some roots that will develop on the side. So my Nambari will be taken care of. And these little trees here on the sides, they don't look really interesting. They look like little stubs right now. But imagine these guys with little sweet branches and little tops and little flat tops on them, like whoop, and then whoop, and it'll be so cute. They'll look really convincing. I know somebody asked for a flat top forest, and flat tops come in different variants and different styles and different looks. And so there's a tree actually. I know I'm just kind of talking off the cuff here and kind of just going on. If you want more content like that, me just rambling on with Carmen, you can go to Little Things for Bonsai People, our podcast, and listen to us just ramble for an hour or so. But here's a little bit of extra me rambling on this video. So there's a tree actually on the way to work. I live in Hammond, which is actually about 30-40 minutes from here. And I drive through the countryside through an area called Robert. So if you go on the map, Louisiana map, you can see that. People who are local, they know those areas pretty well. The couple of the major riverways run through those areas where I drive to work, and there is a scenic area where there's a bridge. I can't remember the name of the river. It might be the Bogaflaya, it could be the Chafuncta, it could be any, I can't remember. Because they run pretty long, but there is an area where they did a lot of construction and they put a new bridge over an area where the bridge was kind of old and falling apart. And they had those giant pneumatic hammers that were hammering the pillars into the ground for the bridge. And they hit a bald cypress tree on the riverside, and they hit it and split it in half. Very similar to what this looks like. And the bark in the tree just peeled away. And I might have to get a photo of it, like pull over on the side of the road, and so you guys can flash it on screen here for the edit for this video. And the tree just kept growing. It didn't phase it at all. It just made new leaves, both sides that split in half have branches on them and green leaves that came out. And then the most beautiful thing happened, since it's a scenic route and it's a little river, the southern folk out here like to go put ropes on their branches and swing into the lake, to the rivers and jump into the river. And so there's actually, you'll see in the picture, there's a platform, there's wood put up the side of the tree, and then there's a branch where they hung a rope and they swing off, and it's that kind of stuff is beautiful to me. That's human and nature interacting hand in hand. That's human intervention and interaction. So, you know, when nature and human come together like that, that's a beautiful thing. So that's why I wanted to create these split trunk pieces, because stuff like that happens. Hurricanes, humans, doing things like construction stuff, they mess things up sometimes, you know, or we mess things up. Weather messes up, Mother Nature messes things up, and it has interesting effects on our trees here, and they are very, very resilient, strong plants. So they can bounce back from that kind of damage. So let me see what I got. Yep, so I know this was kind of a wild journey here for this. I'm very happy with the results. And so what we'll do is we'll put this in the back, we'll let it grow out, we'll let it go crazy, and then in a year, once all these trees have new buds on them and they've grown out, then we'll do a follow-up video where I style the branches out and continue to develop this forest. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and follow our page. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook, and follow us and share stuff there, and comment so I can answer more questions like I did at the beginning of this video. And I will talk to you guys, or see you guys, or I can't see you, but you can see me on the next video. So y'all have a great day.